Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, today we're tackling a question that feels really tailored for the systematic learner among you. Can that sustainable backyard dream of honey farming actually be run like a tight ship, like a business?
Yeah, can we get a real return on investment and how fast? And I think the big one is how much of that hands-on, sometimes kind of grueling work can we realistically automate?
That's the core challenge, right? We're taking your research, the stuff on sustainable ag, business automation, hive economics, and applying it. What's the quickest way from buying, say, your first couple of hives to actually seeing a profit?
Exactly. And, you know, underlying this whole deep dive is figuring out where the real limits of automation are in beekeeping today. Because we really need to get past this myth that it's some kind of passive income stream. It's just not right now anyway.
Absolutely. So let's baseline the cost. Starting small, 1 or 2 hives in the backyard, the research shows it's like a pretty significant initial investment. We're talking, what, $500 to $800 per hive just for that first year?
Yeah, that's about right. That covers the hive boxes, the bees themselves, your basic tools.
So our mission here is to figure out how you can recoup that faster than, the typical 3, maybe 5 years people talk about. And what are those hidden management costs?
Okay, first things first. Before you even think about buying equipment, the absolute best investment you can make, it's knowledge and your network.
Right.
The sources we looked at really hammer this home. Join a local beekeeping association. Seriously. That hands-on help, the mentorship, it's invaluable.
And often free, right? Tailored to your specific area.
Exactly. Your climate, the local pests, all that.
Yeah.
Skipping this, that's honestly the quickest way to become one of those statistics, 40, 60% colony loss figures we see.
Okay, good point. Smart start. Now let's talk about the hurdles, the legal stuff. This isn't like planting tomatoes.
No, definitely not. Even as a hobbyist, you generally have to register your hives. You get a beekeeper ID number.
And that registration often comes with rules, zoning laws.
Precisely. That's usually the first thing. You need to check your local ordinances. Often there's a setback rule. Hives might need to be, say, at least 10 feet from your property line.
Okay, 10 feet.
And then there's the flight path thing. This is a big one for keeping peace with the neighbors.
Ah, yeah, the fence requirement.
Right. A lot of places require a 6-foot high barrier, like a fence or a thick hedge, right in front of the hive entrance.
And that's not just for looks.
Not at all. It forces the bees to fly straight up when they leave the hive, gets them above head height quickly, minimizes, low-flying bee traffic in your neighbor's garden. It's just good risk management in a suburban setting.
Okay, so rules, network. Got it. Now, the actual stuff, the shopping list. The research strongly suggests starting with 2 hives, not just 1. Why double up right away?
It's really a survival strategy for the bees and for you. It lets you compare. Is one hive thriving while the other struggles?
So you can see what normal looks like.
Yeah, and more importantly, you can share resources. If one hive is weak, you can sometimes take a frame of brood or even honey from the strong one to boost the weaker one. It gives you options you just don't have with a single hive.
Makes sense. Okay. Hardware cost, Langstroth hives.
Yeah, the standard Langstroth setup, budget maybe $200 to $300 per complete hive. That's the boxes, frames, bottom board, cover.
And then the bees themselves, package bees or what's the other one? Nukes.
Right, nucleus colonies. Packages are cheaper, maybe $100, $200 sometimes. But it's literally just a box of bees and a queen. They have to build everything from scratch, wax, comb, everything.
Which takes time and energy.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
The nuke costs more, could be up to $300. But it comes with maybe 4 or 5 frames already built out with drawn comb, eggs, larvae, capped brood, and a laying queen with her worker bees. It's like a mini colony already functioning.
So if the goal is faster ROI.
The nuke gives you a significant head start. Much better for getting honey sooner. Then add another, $100 to $200 for your protective gear suit or jacket, veil, gloves, and your essential tools like a smoker and hive tool.
And one last setup point where you put the hives. This is almost like your first automation step, isn't it? Getting the location right.
Absolutely. It's probably the easiest efficiency gain you can make right at the start. You want full morning sun, gets the foragers out working earlier, extends their day.
Protection from wind.
Mandatory. Wind stresses the colony. And face the entrance southeast or southeast if you can for that morning sun and warmth. Oh, and to get them up off the ground. At least 5 inches, maybe more on a stand. Keeps out dampness, pests, makes it easier to work them too.
Okay, hives are placed, laws are followed. The average hive gives you, 30 to 60 pounds of surplus honey a year? But you, our systematic listener, you're aiming higher, maybe 100 pounds plus. This is where the strategy comes in, right? And it seems to start with the queen.
Genetics. It's the absolute highest leverage point in the whole operation. The data we reviewed suggests a really good queen, a high-quality one, can give you something like a 300% ROI in that first year alone, just through productivity gains.
300%. Wow. What makes a queen high quality?
You're looking for a few key traits. One is sheer egg-laying capacity. A top queen can lay 2,000, maybe even 2,500 eggs a day during peak season. That's your workforce potential.
Okay. And disease resistance. You mentioned VSH genetics earlier. Break that down for us. What is VSH?
Right. VSH is crucial. It stands for Varroa Sensitive Hygiene. Basically, it's a genetic trait where the worker bees can detect Varroa mites reproducing under the capped brood cells.
And they do what? Clean them out.
Exactly. They uncap the cell and remove the infected pupa, interrupting the mite's reproductive cycle. Mites are, hands down, the single biggest threat to colony health and productivity. They weaken the bees, transmit viruses. They're a profit killer.
So investing in VSH cleans is like built-in pest control, reduces the need for chemical treatments.
Precisely. It's fundamental risk management and saves you time, money, and potential honey contamination down the line. Switching to really prolific hygienic breeds like, say, certain lines of Buckfast or Italians can genuinely double or triple your potential honey yield compared to just average bees.
Okay, so genetics is job one. Job two seems to be tackling the biggest disaster scenario, swarming.
Oh yeah, swarming is an economic catastrophe for a honey producer. When a hive swarms, you instantly lose maybe 50, even 60% of your worker bees, including your best foragers.
They just fly away with the old queen.
Yep. And the hive that's left behind, it takes weeks, often 54 days or more, according to some sources, for them to raise a new queen, get her mated, and rebuild a population. You're looking at basically zero honey harvest from that hive for the whole season.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
So for the systematic learner, swarming is like a massive preventable inventory loss.
Exactly. And the only proven solution right now is vigilance, strict management. You have to be in those hives, inspecting every 7 to 9 days during swarm season, typically April through July, depending on your climate.
Looking for queen cells? Signs the hive is preparing to swarm. That sounds time-consuming.
It is time-consuming.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is one of the key areas where automation currently falls short. You need human eyes and judgment. But if you skip it, you risk losing everything.
Okay, diligence required.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something maybe less dramatic, but really impactful for efficiency. Drawn comb.
Ah, yes. Drawn comb is probably the most undervalued asset in beekeeping. Think about this. The bees have to consume somewhere between 8 and 10 pounds of honey just to produce 1 single pound of beeswax.
8 to 10 pounds of potential harvest gone just to build their house.
Exactly. It's a massive energy cost for them.
Yeah.
So if you can give them frames with the wax comb already drawn out, maybe from a previous harvest or a hive that died out, they bypass that entire wax production phase.
And all that energy goes straight into
Nectar collection, honey production. Providing drawn comb, especially in the spring, can boost your annual yield by maybe 20 to 30 pounds per hive. It also lets the colony build up its population much faster, like 2 to 3 weeks faster, hitting the main honey flow in peak condition.
So you treat drawn comb like gold, don't waste it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Store it carefully, protect it from wax moths. It's a huge advantage.
All right, let's get into a couple of more advanced sort of physical efficiency hacks the research pointed to, pro-level stuff. Tell us about running -1.
Okay, the -1 configuration. This is where you run 9 frames in a standard 10-frame honey super. You space them out evenly.
So you leave a gap. Why?
The bees will use that extra space to build the wax comb on those 9 frames thicker or deeper than they normally would.
Ah, so each frame holds more honey.
Exactly. You increase the storage capacity per frame by maybe 10 to 15%. Over a whole super and over the season, this little trick can add another 10, maybe 20 pounds to your harvest per hive. Simple, but effective.
Clever. And the other one was using an upper entrance.
Yeah, adding a small upper entrance, maybe just a drilled hole or a notch in the inner cover, high up on the hive. This gives the returning foragers a shortcut.
A shortcut? How?
They can fly directly into the honey supers, bypassing the crowded brood nest area down below. It reduces traffic jams at the main entrance and gets the nectar deposited faster. Some sources suggest it also improves ventilation in the supers, helping the honey cure or dehydrate faster.
And the potential gain from that.
Potentially another 15 to 20% increase in production annually. It's about optimizing bee workflow inside the hive.
Okay, we set this tension up right at the start. You, the listener, are interested in efficiency, maybe even automation. Let's hit that reality check now. If someone's dreaming of 100% hands-off passive income from bees, they need to adjust their expectations, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the bees, bless their hearts, they haven't read the Silicon Valley playbook on automation yet. Their biology is just incredibly complex.
Things like swarming decisions, diagnosing subtle diseases.
Exactly. Those require nuanced judgment that, frankly, AI and sensors aren't quite up to reliably replacing on a small scale yet. And then there are the physical tasks, pulling heavy honey boxes off, doing mite treatments, inspecting frames. Those still need a human.
So let's look at the tech that is available. Level 1, smart monitoring. These are sensors you put in the hive, right? Costing maybe $500 to $1,000 per hive. They track weight, temperature, humidity.
Yeah, systems like Broodminder, or maybe some of the 3B options, they collect data, send it to your phone. They can give you alerts for potential problems.
Like predicting a swarm or a big mite problem.
Potentially, yes. A sudden drop in weight might signal a swarm. Changes in temperature or humidity patterns can indicate stress, maybe brood problems or high mite levels. This data is valuable, definitely.
How much labor does it really save, though?
Well, it allows you to monitor remotely. So instead of feeling like you have to do a full manual inspection every single week just in case, you can maybe stretch those out if the data looks stable. The research suggests this might reduce the frequency of manual inspections by maybe 30 to 50%.
Okay, 30–50%. That translates to what? Maybe 12 to 20 hours saved per hive over a year?
Something like that. It's not insignificant, but, and this is key, you still have to go in and physically do something when the sensors indicate a problem. The sensor doesn't fix the mites for you.
Right. So let's connect this back to mites, since you said they're the biggest profit factor. How does a systematic person use this level 1 tech to actually fight mites more efficiently?
Okay, good question. The monitor helps you pinpoint when the hive is under stress. You see that temperature anomaly, or maybe the colony's weight gain stalls when it should be booming.
Yeah.
That tells you, okay, now is the critical time to intervene.
So it's about timing your actions better, like treatments or maybe requeening with VSH stock.
Exactly. Mite treatments, for example, have specific temperature requirements or work best at certain stages of the colony cycle. Treating at the wrong time is ineffective, wastes money, stresses the bees, and disrupts honey production. The monitor helps you optimize the timing and thus the effectiveness of your interventions. That precision saves time and improves outcomes.
Okay, so level 1 helps with timing and reduces unnecessary inspections. What about the tech that gets all the buzz, the flow hive? Costs a pretty penny, over $1,000 for some setups.
Yeah, the flow hive is interesting. It definitely tackles one specific laborious part of beekeeping, the honey extraction.
The sticky mess in the kitchen or garage.
Right. Instead of pulling frames, uncapping wax, spinning them in an extractor, filtering, you just turn a key or lever, and the honey flows out of a tap directly into your jar. It turns hours of work into maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Sounds great, but there's always a but, isn't there? Critics say it's a bit of a gimmick.
Well, the but is that it only automates the harvesting part. It does absolutely nothing to reduce the core management workload. You still have to do those 7-day swarm inspections. You still have to manage mites. You still have to monitor colony health.
So the actual beekeeping, the biology management is unchanged.
Pretty much identical.
Yeah.
So for the systematic learner focused on overall efficiency and ROI, spending $700 to $1,300 on a flow hive might not make as much sense as, say, investing that money in superior queen genetics or more hives with standard equipment. It depends on what problem you're trying to solve. If you hate extracting honey, maybe it's worth it.
Okay, now the far end of the spectrum. The really high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
Bee-wise. Robotic hives.
Yeah, Beewise is fascinating. They're using AI, computer vision, robotics, all inside the hive unit itself. It claims to automate something like 90% of the labor.
90%.
Doing what? Things like real-time pest detection and non-chemical treatment, automated feeding if needed, climate control within the hive, even some forms of swarm prevention or management. And the results are impressive. They report around 8% annual colony loss.
Compared to 40–60% typically, that's huge.
It is. They seem to be automating a lot of that complex biological decision-making.
So what's the catch for our backyard beekeeper listener? Can you get one?
Therein lies the rub. Currently, it's a rental-only model, and it's priced and designed for large-scale commercial apiaries. We're talking hundreds, usually thousands of hives. It's just not accessible or practical for a backyard setup right now.
And even at 90% automation, there's still a human involved.
Oh, yeah. The remaining 10% is crucial. The system collects the honey internally into large containers, like 100 gallons. A human still has to physically go out, empty those tanks every month or two, handle transport, processing, packaging, all the sales, marketing, admin.
So it turns the beekeeper from an apiarist into more of a logistics manager and salesperson.
Pretty much, yeah. It solves the bee management labor, but not the business labor.
Okay, so we've established full automation is out for the small scale. But that doesn't mean high efficiency is impossible. Let's talk about what is practical, this idea of a hybrid model. How does that work for someone wanting minimal personal time investment?
The hybrid approach is basically this. You leverage technology for the monitoring and insights, but you outsource the actual hands-on hive work.
So use those smart monitors we talked about.
Right. Use the tech to know when intervention is needed. But instead of doing it yourself, you hire experienced local beekeeping labor to perform the inspections, the treatments, maybe help with spring management or harvesting.
You maintain ownership, make the strategic decisions based on the data, but someone else does the physical tasks.
Exactly. You're paying for their time and expertise, which the sources suggest might cost somewhere between $300 and $750 per hive per year, depending on your area and the scope of work.
Okay, let's scale that up. Say someone wants to run 10 hives this way. They invest in the monitoring tech. They budget for the outsourced labor. What kind of financial return are we looking at? The range mentioned in the research is huge, like $1,400 net income up to $5,600 a year. Why such a massive difference?
That huge variance comes down almost entirely to two things: how you sell your honey and whether you diversify beyond just honey.
Okay, explain.
The low end of that range, the $1,400, that probably assumes you're just selling all your honey in bulk, wholesale, maybe to a packer or a local store. You get the lowest price per pound that way.
And the high end, the $5,600.
That assumes you're really maximizing revenue streams. You're selling direct to consumers, getting top dollar per pound, and you're implementing profit stacking. And importantly, with this hybrid model, your personal time input might only be 10 or 20 hours a year, mostly oversight and coordination.
Okay, profit stacking. This seems key. The research suggests that for many commercial beekeepers, honey isn't even their biggest moneymaker.
That's often true. Pollination services are a prime example. If you're in an area with agriculture, even small orchards or berry farms, they might pay you to place your hives on their property during bloom.
And that's income with basically zero extra material cost, right? The bees do the work.
Exactly. Local small-scale pollination contracts might fetch $50 to $100 per hive. For 10 hives, that's an extra $500 to $1,000 right there, just for letting your bees do what they naturally do.
Okay, that's straightforward.
Okay.
But then there are the value-added products. The margins mentioned, especially for beeswax, seem almost unbelievable. You mentioned a 900% markup. How?
Yeah, the beeswax example is pretty stunning. Okay, so you harvest maybe a pound of clean beeswax from your cappings when you extract honey. That raw wax might be worth, say, $8 if you sell it in bulk.
Okay, $8.
But if you take that same pound of wax, melt it down, add some oils, and pour it into lip balm tubes, you can make maybe 40 lip balms.
40 lip balms from 1 pound of wax.
Roughly, yeah. And if you sell those lip balms for, say, $4 each at a farmer's market or online.
40 times 4. That's $160 from $8 worth of wax.
Exactly. That's where that 900% markup comes from. It's transforming a low-value byproduct into a high-margin retail product.
But wait, doesn't making 40 lip balms completely contradict the low-touch goal, the hybrid model? That sounds like a lot of work.
You're absolutely right. That's the crucial trade-off. You're shifting your labor from beekeeping to product manufacturing and marketing. It dramatically increases potential profit per hive, but it also increases your personal time involvement unless you outsource the product creation too.
So the truly low-touch systematic learner might skip the intensive crafting and focus elsewhere?
Probably. They might focus on maximizing the value of the honey itself. Maybe produce premium products that require less labor, like creamed honey or infused honeys, lavender, chili, that sort of thing. Those can often command a 20% to 50% price premium over standard liquid honey with much less processing effort than cosmetics.
Or just sell the raw beeswax for the $8 pound and keep it simple.
That's also an option, absolutely. Focus on pollination income and high-value direct honey sales.
Which brings us to the final point. Selling direct.
Yes. If you sell your honey wholesale, you might only get 40–50% of the final retail price. If you sell direct-to-consumer farmers markets, online shop, maybe a small roadside stand, you capture 100% of that retail value. That's often $10 to $20 per pound, sometimes more for specialty honey.
And branding matters here.
Hugely. Good professional-looking labels telling the story of your bees, your location, maybe your sustainable practices. That can justify a 25% to 50% price premium in the eyes of the consumer. People pay more for authentic, local, high-quality products with a story. #tag outro. So let's try and wrap this up. The bottom line for the research seems to be this. Just by really focusing on best management practices, nailing your queen genetics, preventing swarms, and especially controlling varroa mites, you can likely increase your output by nearly 20% without buying any fancy tech. That's just operational efficiency.
Right, getting the fundamentals absolutely dialed in.
And if you do implement that hybrid model, using tech for monitoring, outsourcing labor, focusing on direct sales, and maybe some simple value adds like pollination or premium honey, those profit margins can realistically hit that 25% to 40% range.
So while it's definitely not passive income, it doesn't have to consume your life either. Once established, well-managed hives using some of these strategies might only require 20-30 hours of someone's labor per hive per year. If you outsource that, your personal commitment becomes mainly oversight.
Exactly. It makes it a potentially very manageable and profitable side endeavor for someone systematic.
Which leads us to, I think, the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Given that beekeeping, especially the core biological management, seems pretty resistant to full, affordable automation right now, where should you focus your resources if you're aiming for maximum return with minimal personal effort?
Option A. Become the hyper-efficient manager in that hybrid model. Master the monitoring, the outsourcing, the diversified marketing, and capture those high direct sale margins.
Or option B is a cleaner, perhaps truly more passive approach, simply to invest your capital elsewhere. Maybe even equity in a company like BeeWise, one of the players trying to crack that commercial scale automation problem. They've raised, what, $170 million trying to solve this?
So the question for you is, will your best bee-related ROI come from optimizing your own small-scale management and labor, or outsourced labor, or from a pure capital investment in the technology aiming to eventually automate it all? Where's the smarter bet for passive returns in the world of bees?